So, a long time ago, I had a falling out with one of my friends who liked to cyber harass people she didn't like. Because I knew this, I took precautions on all of my social medias and added the two-step verification where it would send codes to your cell phone if someone tried to log in or change your password. Seems like a safe step, right? I never really thought about it any further until a few days ago. I get an SMS text from a random number that addressed me by my full first name. It freaks me out a little because the spelling of my first name is pretty uncommon from where I'm from. No big deal. Maybe it's just an old friend who changed phones. I gave the classic, "Who dis?" back at them, to which I received an even stranger text back. "Oh my goodness, it's you. Are you 18? I have something I want to cash app you." Well, that's weird, I thought to myself. Probably just some scam to hack my cash app. I said again, "Who is this?" I never received a text back from that number. No less than 5 minutes later, I get 3 calls and 2 spam voicemails from different and unrecognized phone numbers. Then I get a text telling me to pick up the phone and saying my name. Now, that's pretty alarming. I immediately took screenshots and I had my boyfriend call from his phone, but no luck. I blocked the number and I hoped that was it. Maybe about 30 minutes later, I get 5 phone calls from a new number and a new, even more alarming set of texts. "I'm a 40-year-old man and I'm in love with you. I will keep trying to reach you until you respond. I won't stop." I immediately blocked the number and then called my parents. Then within about 2 minutes, he made a new number and texted me again. "Wow, I just want to talk to you for 5 minutes. I'll even pay you, but after that, consider me gone." Again, I just blocked him. I alerted my boss, then the text stopped. After work, I filed a police report and bought a baseball bat. My first instinct was that it was a guy I recently worked with who had been recently fired for harassment. One of my friends/coworkers who was good with the tech staff changed his phone number and texted the number pretending to be me or Burner to get some more information out of him. It was a bit of a long conversation, so I'll sum it up by saying that this guy basically wanted to talk to me on the phone while he masturbated. He called me 26 times and got no answer, so he eventually stopped trying. We assumed that was the end of it. The next morning, I get a text from a new number yet again. He was claiming to be one of my friend's fathers. I started to freak out. Both my parents and my boyfriend were at work, so he sent his mom over to calm me down and stay with me while I was alone in my apartment. He called my phone and she answered it, and all he said in this super creepy raspy voice is, "Please," and then abruptly hung up. I was having a full-blown panic attack at this point. We called the police department and they had an officer come out to update my report. She was still texting the guy while the cop was there. Once she told him law enforcement had been contacted, his whole story completely changed. He said that he doesn't know me or anything about me. He doesn't even live near me and means no physical harm. He's just a lonely guy who got my phone number from Facebook and decided to harass me. I might remember this wrong, but I could have sworn I had my phone number set to private, but I know I still had it up there because of the two-step verification. I recently posted something on Facebook Market, so I'm assuming that's where he found me. I have since deleted that account and changed my phone number, and nothing else has happened. Posting this here is more or less a warning to anyone who has that two-step verification set up. Please double check and make sure that you have the most private settings as possible for everything. I'm not even going to set up all that stuff with my new phone number. I'm not going to risk giving it out anywhere online. This started towards the end of my 8th grade year. Basically, my friend had this guy who was following her Instagram, and he would comment on all of her posts telling her how pretty she was. Now, that wasn't super weird, but we found it kind of creepy because this dude was obviously in his late 50s, and she was only 13. He also started messaging her every day. Not anything overly creepy, just mainly small talk at first. Eventually he finds my page and starts commenting on it, but I don't post pictures of myself online much, and basically all of it was just doodles and pictures of my dog. Now, this guy's account also mainly consisted of art, and most of it was actually pretty good, so I didn't really mind him commenting on my art at first. Eventually though, he also started messaging me and trying to talk to me as well. Now, I have pretty bad anxiety and I hate coming across as mean, so I wouldn't really respond with words unless he asked me a direct question. Mainly what I did was just send a heart or a smiley face. Stupid, I know. So this continues for a few weeks and I learned that this guy can randomly blow up. I learned this because I had responded to a message from him asking my age and I told him I was 13, and then I put my phone down because I had to do the dishes. When I came back to my phone, I had like 10 messages from him asking why I wasn't responding and also telling me that he was joking. I was super confused at first at what he could have sent that would have made me mad. Basically, he had responded about how both me and my friend looked like we were 18. I found that to be creepy, but I didn't want to confront him about it, so I told him it was fine and that I was just doing my chores. The conversation moved on, and I made an excuse to stop messaging him for the day. One really creepy thing he did was when I posted a picture of my grandma's dog, which is a corgi, and put the caption of how much I love that dog. He liked that photo, and then within a day or so later, he sends me a picture of a corgi that he drew for me. I thanked him for it, and then he asked me for my address so he could send it to me. I absolutely refused, but he kept asking me, telling me that it was a gift and that he wanted me to have it. I had to send a message explaining that it was a family rule and that I wasn't allowed to tell him my address. After that, he dropped it. Eventually, after a bunch of little creepy things, my friend finally blocked him, and so he started ranting about it to me, saying how she shouldn't be creeped out by him and he was just trying to be nice, and that if she had a problem with anything he was saying, she should have just told him. He basically continued on like that for the next few days. He then pointed out how he was following her backup account, and how he was going to start talking to her on that one. I immediately told my friend all about this, and she blocked him on her backup as well. I eventually stopped talking to him as well, and I also blocked him. When I was around 13 to 14 years old, Twitter was the up-and-coming social network, and I had just made myself an account to see if it was all it was jacked up to be. I got a few followers, followed a few friends and celebs, etc. All was good until this guy started following me. I assumed it was all legit, just one of the people that you get linked to randomly when you first sign up. I don't follow him back because he's a few years older than me. In my profile pic at the time, I was clearly 13 or so, and my typical teenager tweets conveyed the same thing. I thought nothing more of it until a few days later when he direct messaged me asking me to add him on MSN. He said that he liked my picture and thought I was very beautiful and all this other BS. Being the insecure girl that I was at that age, I added him the same day and we started chatting. He told me about how he's not really around 19 to 20 like I thought, but in fact he's in his 30s, has a wife and a child, and a full-time job in India where he lives. Now, things are starting to seem odd to me, but he said nothing harmful yet. We're just talking about hobbies and stuff. Then it starts to get even more strange. He starts asking me if I have a boyfriend, and I tell him no. He then asks if there's anyone I currently like. I say no, but that I do have a crush on one girl in my year at school. That catches his interest right away. He starts asking me all these things like, "What do you like about women's bodies?" And because I'm still oblivious to anything dodgy, I just say something like, "I like their personalities more," and whatever, and so on. Then he says, "But what about the legs or the tits?" At this point I get really uncomfortable and say I guess so and that I have to go offline now because it's getting late. I don't go online for a few days, and when I get back online, I see that he's left loads of messages saying things like, "Are you there? I need to talk." I message back asking what's so important, and he says that he got into a fight with his wife or something. Then about 5 minutes later, he says that he needs to go because if his wife knew he was talking to me, she'd kill him. After that, he quickly tells me how sexy I look in my new MSN pic and goes offline. I totally freaked out at this point, and I blocked him on MSN. The very next day, he starts tweeting at me asking me why I deleted him. Do I not like him anymore? He thinks that I'm so sexy and all this other creepy BS. After that, I blocked him on Twitter and created a new account just to be safe. Thinking back on it, I was so stupid even talking to him in the first place, as he was so much older than me, and he was obviously asking things that were so inappropriate for anyone to be asking, let alone an adult to a 13-year-old child. I never told anyone about it because it ended so quickly, but if I'd been more stupid and let it go on longer, it might have gotten so much worse. I just really hope he didn't pull this same crap on any other young girls. Just for some background, I'm a girl, early 20s, and this happened last year. I have a Twitter account which I kept private. I didn't have a whole lot of followers. I'd really only approve people who are friends of friends, etc., which I probably shouldn't have done. But anyway, I approved this one girl, Mary, to follow me, and I followed her back. Mary was really into Twitter. She'd tweet every 5 minutes, foursquare her every location like she'd check into roads and streets, and she'd tweet every song she was listening to as well what she was currently watching on TV. It got annoying very quickly as my entire feed was comprised of Mary's activities. Because I didn't know her personally and hardly interacted her with any way, I unfollowed her. Shortly after that, I heard from friends that she was tweeting about me, making fun of my username, my description, etc. It was very strange, but I shrugged it off as her being butthurt that she lost a follower. A few days later, I had a friend send me a message asking about my new Twitter account, to which I then replied, what? Well, as it turns out, someone made a brand new Twitter account using my picture, a weird version of my name, and a twisted version of my username. They even used the same exact theme and background. On this account, they posted a lot of my personal information, from where I lived to the name of my dog. I remember tweeting something like, "Thanks Mary for that parody account," and the crazy girl kept insisting that I made this account to frame her. I ended up having to email Twitter to get it taken down, which thankfully they did. I later heard that she was totally obsessed with me, and that she would always tweet about me if she saw me anywhere like concerts or at our uni. After that, I cleaned up all my accounts and deleted a lot of tweets that contained any personal info, and blocked a lot of people. I really thought that because I didn't accept strange guys on my accounts that I'd be safe, but apparently girls can be crazy obsessive too. A little background on this guy. He's been messaging me for years from several different accounts, many of which I assume are him because he's been known to make many fake accounts before. The story I'm about to tell involves one of the fake accounts. A few weeks ago, I get a message from this one chick. Let's call her Kate. Well, Kate starts out with, "Hey, thanks for accepting my friend request, beautiful. Sorry if it's a little bit random, my other account got blocked because I posted a picture with cleavage." Ah, that makes sense. Yeah. I leave her on read. I was getting ready to go out of town because I was going to be visiting my boyfriend with his family, as he had just graduated from the Marines. About a week later, I get another message. "Hey, you're really sexy." At this rate, I remember the chick's other account. She pulls this same thing about a year ago, and I told her that I was happy in my relationship. She left me alone for a while. Now she's back, so I decided to try the happy relationship thing again. Thanks, my boyfriend tells me the same thing all the time. He's a very lucky man that I don't try and steal you. Okay, whatever. I decide to keep playing the whole "I'm in a relationship" screw off card. She asked me why I love him so much. Since he just graduated, I decided to send a picture of him and I together with him in his uniform to her. What makes him so amazing? That uniform. She then goes on to say something really gross. Something along the lines of, "I heard soldiers are really good in bed." And now that starts the sick part. She starts asking me questions about sex with him. Is he big? Is he kinky? What does he do to you? Does he ever put it in your throat? And questions like that. I'm trying to be as vague as possible in hopes that she'll get the hint, but she keeps asking. Eventually, as anticlimactic as it seems, she finally leaves me alone. Cue earlier today. I'm scrolling through Facebook and one of my friends posts a rant about someone messaging her. She said for everyone to be aware of an account that kept sending her explicit photos and asking her to meet up. She stated that she didn't think that the chick messaging her was actually the chick in the pictures, if she's even a chick at all. Well, it's the exact same account that was messaging me, with more or less the same text that she had sent me. I checked the comments section. There were dozens upon dozens of females that are posting about the same account messaging them with the same string of texts and photos. It eventually reaches this point where guys are commenting about wanting to find this chick and find out who she really is. I decided to post my own little part of the messages and stated that I think I know who it is. It turns out it's not a she, but it's a he. We figure out exactly who it is. Turns out, it's the guy that's been messaging me on and off for years. He's been messaging several girls with several different accounts, collecting all of the nudes that they send him, and then blackmails them and threatens to send their nudes to their families if they don't do what he tells them to. Luckily, I was underage, and I never sent photos like that to him or any of his other accounts, mainly because I was self-conscious. Holding my ground on not sending any nudes might have saved me in the long run here. This guy was crazy. He carved a pentagram into his arm because he was mad at his mother. He constantly posted about screwing girls, and he also bragged about being an extremely talented hacker. The moral of the story here is don't trust anyone you don't personally know. Who knows what he would have done to me or any of the other girls he tried to meet up with? Who knows what he'll try next? But please, everyone, please remember to stay safe. Please let this story come as a warning about strangers. I know we're all adults, but these are adult women as well as underage women that he'd been targeting. It's absolutely terrifying to think of what could have happened. Around first grade, I had become friends with this kid named Stan. He was a couple of years older than I was, but he had a sister that was around my age, who I was also friends with. I also had a wicked crush on their older brother, James. I lost contact with all three of them around middle school. Of course, when Facebook happened, I began getting in touch with the people I'd gone to school with. It was a moderately sized K through 8th grade school, so you were basically with the exact same group of kids through each grade. This makes for some pretty strong bonds, I believe. There was a lot of us who kept in contact after moving on to high school for a little while before drifting apart. Because of this, I was always really excited when I got back in touch with those people. However, not all of those connections have been positive. I got a friend request from Stan one day under a different name. The messages were the typical, "Hey, how's it going? What have you been up to?" etc. Then he started sending messages that were about my looks. They weren't obscene, but they did make me a bit uncomfortable. He started pushing to meet up. I can't really explain it, but I just had a really off feeling about him, so I was kind of avoiding making any kind of plans. He continued to be pushy about things, and finally I stopped responding to his messages altogether. I should also mention here that when I first accepted Stan's friend request, he literally went through every one of my pictures and liked all of them. That should have been my first clue, but I just let it go. Then I started getting messages from friends and even some family members asking me about him. Stan was going through and basically sending everyone friend requests. By this point I'm like, what the heck, this is weird. But things got really nuts when my cousin informed me that Stan had not only tried to friend her, he'd also sent her a message asking all sorts of questions about me, such as things that I liked or places I like to go. My cousin was concerned that he was sending those kinds of messages to other people as well, who might actually tell him what he wanted to know. I debated sending Stan a message telling him to back the crap off, but decided to just block him and change all of my Facebook settings to make it as private as I could. I also sent out a mass message to all of my friends and family, informing them of the whole situation and to please kindly not give out any of my personal information. I had been friends with James, but I ended up blocking him as well, just to prevent Stan from getting access to anything. Things were quiet for about a week. Then, I started getting friend requests from random accounts. Some didn't have pictures and some had random images. They were accompanied by messages that made it clear they were all from Stan, full of skeevy comments about my looks and how he wanted to hook up. And that's putting it mildly. Literally every day I had an account that needed to be blocked. I contacted Facebook about the situation, but they didn't really offer any kind of help. It finally came to a stop when I threatened Stan with the police. My boyfriend at the time also threatened Stan. The peace only lasted for about a year. Then I got a friend request from a girl I'd gone to school with. We talked pretty frequently, both online and over the phone. She wanted us to hang out, so we talked about that for a little bit, but then she started bringing it up more frequently and persistently. I started getting that weird feeling again that something wasn't quite right. Then came the bombshell. Kelsey and Stan were dating. We'd all been in the same classes, so the fact that they knew each other wasn't that strange, but for them to be dating? I confronted Kelsey all about it, and then I blocked her because we'd been talking on the phone and they had my phone number. Of course, both began calling and texting crazy things non-stop. I finally had to get my number changed. It's been over 10 years since all of this happened, and I haven't heard from Stan once. Kelsey did try to friend me recently with a different account, and a look through her Facebook shows that she's married to another man, and no evidence of Stan. I'm not taking any chances though. She's been blocked. This story covers a span of over a year or so of my life, so please bear with me. I am an uninteresting man in my late 20s with a stable job and a happy family. Being so, I had never even entertained the thought that I might one day be the target of a stalker. So as a warning to everyone, here's my story. You don't have to be a typical pretty young lady to catch the eye of a stalker. I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm a habitual yet very casual Facebook user. I don't post a lot, but I do check my newsfeed quite often. One Saturday night, I was doing a quick round on Facebook before I went to bed when I received a friend request. I accepted it without hesitation. Just about every friend request I ever receive gets accepted because I don't ever post anything very personal. As I said, I have a very casual approach to social networking. I do a quick glance on the profile that had just friended me and saw that it was an obviously fake account. Not thinking too much about it, I put my computer away and fell asleep. The next day, I was having lunch at a friend's house, having completely forgotten about the friend request from the night before. My phone buzzed and I saw that I had gotten a message from a coworker of mine named Maya. Although Maya and I worked together and had a few mutual friends outside of work, we didn't really communicate much other than when it was about work. I checked it assuming it was work-related. I guess looking back, you can say it was. To get to the gist of it, the Facebook account that had friended me had also friended Maya, and had bombarded her with insults and accusations of being a hoe and every other name in the book. The person took it a step further by messaging Maya's husband, saying that she was cheating on him with a coworker. Maya wanted to know if I knew who this person was because I was the only other person that accepted the friend request. I explained to her how I usually accept every request I ever get and had no idea who it was. I then proceeded to unfriend the profile in question. Maya explained to me that she had already had some suspicions on who it was, but just wanted to see if I could confirm it. She believed it was someone named Carrie. Let's rewind to a few weeks earlier. I had received a friend request from Carrie. It struck me as odd because although we worked at the same place, we had never met, never spoken, nor had we ever made eye contact or been within 20 feet of each other. We worked in different departments, but I walked past her every day because I had to walk through her department to get to our lounge. That was the furthest extent of our interactions. I only learned her name from when she friended me on Facebook, and I recognized her picture. I'm not really sure how she found out my name. Carrie also friended my wife's profile, and she subsequently began to shift through hundreds and years of my wife's posts and pictures, liking and commenting on several of them. She began interacting with my posts too, as though she knew us very well. At work though, I walked by like usual, and still no interaction. I found it pretty odd, but I didn't look too far into it. So back to the present. The mysterious Facebook account continued to harass Maya until she told her that she knew it was Carrie and was going to call the police. I thought that was the end of it, but boy, was I wrong. Over several weeks, I began getting more friend requests from multiple girls looking to hook up with me. Obviously, I knew they were all fake, and for the most part, I ignored them. I also began getting notifications from Google and Facebook accounts about suspicious activity on my profile. Most of the time it warned me of failed login attempts. One I specifically remember said my Facebook account was actually logged in from somewhere unusual, and asked whether it was me. Well, it wasn't me. I should have been more concerned about it, but for some reason I really didn't care at the time. I was really stupid, and even after that I didn't even bother to change my password. At the time, I viewed all of these happenings as random, isolated incidents. I had no valuable stuff on my account and didn't have any private secretive messages. What harm could they do, right? I mean, right? A few months pass when one day my wife gets a message from Carrie stating that she had bought a high-end video camera and was looking to start some amateur filming. She wanted to know if we would help her by letting her film our family for a day. Remembering what Maya had said months ago, I was pretty reluctant but wanted to give Carrie the benefit of the doubt. So we agreed to tell her that we'd schedule a time for her whenever we weren't busy, and left it at that. Once again, I have yet to actually meet Carrie. More weeks pass by and we completely forget about scheduling the film shoot, when then Carrie messages me about it. I turn her down and things got really weird. She had sent me several GIFs of stick figures doing some questionable positions. I didn't respond, so she asked, "Funny, isn't it?" I immediately texted my wife to log into my Facebook profile to observe the messages. Not wanting to be rude, I agreed with Carrie as the humor in the GIF she sent and carried on the conversation. She then proceeded to send me old photos from my abandoned MySpace account that I had completely forgotten about. This was around the time when MySpace had been revamped and people lost a lot of cherished memories. Somehow she dug up mine and decided to share them with me. This was really creepy to me. Things then escalated pretty quickly from there. She began talking about her body and how she wasn't attractive, trying to bait me into complimenting her looks. She wasn't beautiful by any means, but she was a decently attractive person. I didn't bite though. Then she hit me with something out of the blue. She had asked me about my private, suggesting that it was probably really big. I decided that was enough and completely stopped responding. Of course, my wife was reading this the whole time, and we were texting back and forth about how funny and weird this whole thing was. I continued to go to work and still awkwardly never actually met her. I definitely didn't want to strike up any conversations after that. Carrie messaged me one final time asking for a favor. Maya had blocked her profile and Carrie suspected that Maya was saying bad stuff about her, so she wanted me to check her profile to confirm. I told her that I wasn't going to stalk Maya for her, and that was that. Just between us though, I did check, and no, Maya couldn't care less to waste her time talking about Carrie. Around this time, my wife got a text from an unknown number. The person knew her name but was trying to remain anonymous and was trying to flirt with her. We were with a bunch of friends at the time, and we all thought it'd be funny if we all text flirted with this person at the same time to annoy them. Once again, I never thought to connect any of the incidents. Carrie eventually quit work and I never saw her again, but I continued to get suspicious activity and friend requests that I stupidly continued to write off. I had all but forgotten about Carrie. Then, I'd say over a year later, I get a bomb from my wife. One of our good friends texted her saying that I was sending very inappropriate messages on Facebook. I had been really busy running errands all day and hadn't really checked my Facebook at the time. I found out that my password had been changed, and when I finally logged back on, all of my messages had been cleared. I had no idea the extent of what happened until I started hearing from more people that I was being very suggestive and nasty to them. The thing was, these weren't random women on my friends list that were targeted. These were women that were close to me. Good friends, my wife's sisters, and my friends' wives. These messages weren't holding back either. They went all out in gross detail about what I wanted to do to them. I felt completely violated and humiliated. I couldn't imagine how the women felt. My wife and I were really close to all of our families and friends, and every other week or so all of our friends would get together and drink, barbecue, watch movies, or sports and hang out. We'd have several families over and never had a problem. All of them said they understood what happened and they know that it wasn't me. Deep inside though, I could see that they felt it was possibly or potentially probably was indeed me. Over time, more and more of them stopped coming over to the point where my home started to feel empty. I confided in my wife of how I think that they think it was me, and she rebutted that I was just being paranoid. She argued that our friends were just very busy with their own lives, that they'd eventually come over when they were free again. I then learned that someone had created a Facebook account using my name and picture, and had continued harassing the same women. One of them posted a picture of the conversations with fake me on Facebook. She commented that it could really be me because apparently the mystery person had used the same words that I typically would. She also stated that this person knew my friends and family extensively. My heart instantly shattered after reading that. I quit checking my Facebook for the longest time, and I guess you could say that I kinda fell into a mild depression. I felt miserable. I told my wife that I wanted to disappear, and I actually strongly considered quitting my job of 7 years and moving away to start anew. I know now that I was being quite irrational, and thankfully my wife stayed strong for me through it all. I felt like I needed to defend my honor, and I started gathering alibis of times, people, and places that I was around during the time of all of those messages. My wife brutally told me that she couldn't believe that I was so weak enough to let a no-life idiot on Facebook put me down and make me feel that way. Which is true. I am and always have been a very mentally strong person. I always look for the best in a bad situation, but for some reason this affected me differently. I can't explain why, but I felt extreme shame and guilt for something I didn't even do. Without my wife's support knocking me back to reality, I don't know what would have happened. We advised all of our friends to just ignore the person, and eventually everything stopped. From time to time, I still get a random friend request, but I don't accept them anymore. I don't have any proof that this was all the work of Carrie. It just all happened during a time when she injected herself into my life, and eventually stopped after she left. My friends have started coming over again, but it hasn't felt the same ever since then. I don't know if it's them or just in my head. My wife and I came to the conclusion that Carrie reveled in the misery of others. After tormenting Maya, she then moved on and targeted me, trying to ruin my marriage and distance me from my friends, for no other reason than the fact that she enjoyed doing so. I'm pretty sure she hasn't stopped, and the only reason she left me alone is because she found a new victim to harass. What a terrible human being. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you have your own personal scary story, be sure to submit that to my subreddit at reddit.com/r/southerncannibal or to my email at southerncannibal@gmail.com. I'm always looking for new stories. And before we bring this video to a close, I just want to shout out all of my $5 or more patrons, as well as my $3 or more patrons featured on screen. Shout out to Babe Lincoln, Beth A, Kate E, Celeste S, Ellie S, Emily W, Heather B, Howard R, Jacqueline W, Jazzy G, Jonathan C, Lori J, Matthew B, Michael G, Random Randy, Steph L, Tammy S, and Terry H. Thank all of you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it more than you know. And if any of you would like to join these awesome people and also become a patron, head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/southerncannibal. Thank you everyone, and have a good one. And remember to always